Just before 6 in the morning on Saturday, the ground beneath eastern Indonesia's Flores island tore open. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake, one of Indonesia's deadliest in years, has now killed at least 53 people, injured 135, and triggered a tsunami that reached nearly 5.5 feet in places. Landslides have blocked roads into the hardest hit region so completely that rescue teams still haven't reached it by land, and Indonesia's own geophysics agency has issued a specific warning. The fault responsible for this earthquake could remain active for up to 3 more weeks. Here's what makes this even more unsettling. This exact stretch of coastline has done this before. In 1992, a similar earthquake and tsunami killed more than 2,500 people in almost the same location. Today, we're breaking down what happened on Flores Island, why this fault is expected to keep producing aftershocks for weeks, and what this region's history tells us about the risk still ahead. No guessing, no dramatizing, just the facts, the science, and the real stakes. What happened Saturday morning? According to the U.S. Geological Survey, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck at 5:58 a.m. local time on Saturday, August 15th, 2026, with an epicenter approximately 68 kilometers, about 42 miles, north-northwest of the city of Ende, in Indonesia's East Nusa. Tenggara Province. USGS measured the depth at 10 kilometers, roughly 6.2 miles, a genuinely shallow rupture that, as we've explained when covering other major earthquakes on this channel, allows far more seismic energy to reach the surface at close to full force, rather than being absorbed by deeper layers of rock. Indonesia's National Disaster Management Agency, BMKG, reported the death toll climbing through the weekend, from an initial count of 38 to 47 to 51, and ultimately to at least 53 confirmed deaths by Sunday, with 135 people injured, according to Wikipedia's ongoing tracking of the disaster, citing multiple Indonesian and international sources. BNPB head Lieutenant General Suharyanto reported the earthquake destroyed at least 157 houses and damaged nearly 200 more, forcing roughly 2,000 villagers in Nagakeo Regency, the area closest to the epicenter, into temporary shelters. Indonesia's Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency, BMKG, recorded tsunami waves at 10 separate coastal monitoring sites, with the highest observed wave reaching 0.94 meters, about 3.1 feet, at Morol End. A tsunami warning issued immediately after the quake was lifted roughly 90 minutes later, once monitoring stations confirmed sea levels weren't continuing to rise dangerously. Why rescue teams still can't reach the worst hit area. One of the most difficult aspects of this disaster has been physically reaching the communities that need help most. According to Al Jazeera, rescue teams had yet to reach Nagakeo Regency, the region closest to the epicenter, because the earthquake triggered landslides that blocked roads and disrupted communication signals across the area. Fathur Rahman, head of the local search and rescue agency in the port town of Maumere, explained that a team was attempting to reach the area by ferry instead, since the normal road route remained impassable. Indonesia's National Search and Rescue Agency, Basarnas, deployed 3 helicopters and a rescue vessel to support the emergency response. A response shaped directly by Flores Island's scattered mountainous geography, terrain that makes reaching isolated communities genuinely difficult, even without earthquake damage compounding the challenge. The human toll from this specific access problem is significant. USGS estimates roughly 56,000 people experienced severe shaking, with an additional 420,000 experiencing very strong shaking, and well over 1 million more feeling strong to moderate shaking across the wider region. Nona, a 51-year-old resident of Talabura village, described the moment to Reuters simply, "The quake was massive. The shock was so strong." That kind of first-hand account from a region where full damage assessment remains incomplete days later underscores how much of this disaster's true scope likely still isn't fully known even as this video is being made. Here's the detail that makes this an ongoing story rather than a single concluded event. According to CNN Indonesia, citing BMKG, Indonesia's geophysics agency estimates the Flores thrust fault responsible for Saturday's earthquake will likely remain active for up to 3 more weeks. This isn't idle speculation. It's based on the aftershock sequence already recorded. Al Jazeera reported the main earthquake was followed by hundreds of aftershocks throughout the day, and Wikipedia's tracking, citing Indonesian news source Kompas, documented the sequence had grown to 686 aftershocks by August 16th, 16 of which measured above magnitude 5.0 on their own, a genuinely active, ongoing sequence rather than a handful of minor tremors following the main event. To understand why a single earthquake produces this many aftershocks, remember that a major rupture doesn't release all of a fault's accumulated stress evenly or instantly. The sudden movement redistributes stress to surrounding sections of the fault and nearby rock, and those sections continue settling and adjusting over the following days and weeks, each adjustment capable of producing its own smaller earthquake. With 16 aftershocks already exceeding magnitude 5.0, and BMKG's own 3-week activity window still largely ahead as of this recording, residents across the affected region face a genuinely extended period of continued risk, not a single event followed by simple recovery. The 1992 disaster. This earthquake. Echoes. To understand why officials and residents alike are treating this earthquake with such heightened concern, you need to know this region's history. According to Al Jazeera, this same stretch of Flores coastline was struck by a similarly powerful earthquake in December 1992, when the quake and the tsunami it triggered killed more than 2,500 people, according to Indonesia's geophysics agency. That disaster remains one of the deadliest earthquake-tsunami events in the country's modern history, and it happened in essentially same geological setting driving Saturday's earthquake, the same subduction and thrust fault system running along this stretch of the Indonesian archipelago. This kind of historical echo is a pattern we've discussed before on this channel, most directly regarding Turkey's North Anatolian Fault and its documented westward-marching sequence of major earthquakes throughout the 20th century. A coastline that has produced a catastrophic earthquake-tsunami combination before hasn't become safer simply because decades have passed. It's part of an active fault system that scientists expect to continue generating major earthquakes indefinitely on a timescale that rarely aligns neatly with a single human lifetime's sense of how much time has passed since the last one. Adding to an already complicated emergency response, Al Jazeera and ABC News both reported that later on the same Saturday, a separate magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck Indonesia's western Sumatra island, thousands of kilometers from Flores, according to USGS. It's worth being precise here in the same way we always try to be on this channel. These two earthquakes are not geologically connected. Indonesia sits along one of the most seismically active regions on Earth, part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, and experiences frequent independent earthquakes across its many separate fault systems and subduction zones simultaneously. There were no initial reports of damage or casualties from the Sumatra quake specifically, but its occurrence on the same day as the much larger, deadlier Flores earthquake illustrates just how consistently active Indonesia's broader tectonic setting remains, even when two significant earthquakes striking on the same day have nothing to do with one another beneath the surface. BNPB and Basarnas continue search and rescue operations across the affected regions of East Nusa Tenggara, with particular focus on reaching Nagekeo, Regency by helicopter and ferry, while landslide-blocked roads remain impassable. BMKG continues monitoring the Flores thrust fault's aftershock sequence, with officials maintaining their estimate that meaningful activity could continue for up to 3 weeks from the initial rupture. Indonesian authorities are expected to continue updating casualty figures as rescue teams reach more remote, currently inaccessible communities, following the same pattern seen throughout the weekend, where confirmed deaths climbed steadily as expanded rather than arriving as a single final count immediately after the earthquake struck. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake striking a coastline that already carries the memory of a catastrophic 1992 disaster isn't simply a tragic coincidence of geography. It's a direct reflection of how earthquake risk actually works along an active fault system, the same underlying stress and rupture pattern capable of producing similarly devastating events repeatedly across decades whenever enough. Time passes for stress to rebuild along the same stretch of crust, with BMKG's own 3-week activity warning still largely ahead, and rescue teams still working to physically reach some of the hardest hit communities days after the initial rupture. Flores Island's recovery from this earthquake is very much still unfolding as this video goes out, not a completed story with a final chapter already written. We'll keep tracking this story and every other major seismic and volcanic event happening around the world right now. Subscribe if you want to see the next update, drop a comment, and tell me, had you heard about Flores Island's 1992 earthquake and tsunami before today? See you in the next one.